When did we start living away from ourselves? It's not a question to be asked, but a moment to be noticed. A moment when you feel physically present, yet deeply absent. You move, speak, and fulfill your roles, but something within you stands at a distance, watching silently. As if you'd stepped out of yourself without realizing it, and as if returning was no longer as automatic as it once was. This didn't happen all at once. It wasn't a decision. It was a soft, quiet distancing that began when we learned to name ourselves before feeling ourselves, to chase what's expected of us before listening to what calls within us. Little by little, we began living on the surface, while the depth remained waiting. This video is not about finding fault or attempting to fix anything. It's a pause. A sincere space where we lower the noise a little to hear that voice that never disappeared, only grew faint. The voice that remembers where we were before we scattered, before life became a series of reactions. If, as you listen, you feel the question doesn't come from outside but from within, know that you haven't strayed as far as you might think. Perhaps all that's happening is that consciousness is knocking now, not to take you somewhere new, but to remind you of the place you never truly left, yourself. We are born in direct contact with life. We feel before we interpret. We live before we define. We move from an inner impulse that needs no justification. But as time passes, the journey begins to divide. Not because humans made a mistake, but because they learned. They learned how to survive, how to belong, how to please, and how to become something understandable in a world that doesn't wait long. Little by little, life transforms from an experience to be lived into a task to be performed. We start collecting roles. This is what I should be. This is what is expected of me. This is what is rewarded, and this is what I must hide. With every role we add, we lose a part of the simplicity of being present. We don't get lost suddenly, but we take a small step away each time we choose to be as others want us to be instead of as we truly are. And in the midst of this path, something strange happens. We continue living, but we forget how to truly live. The days fill up, desires multiply, successes and failures come and go, yet a faint feeling remains that something essential is missing. Not an achievement, nor a relationship, nor a ready-made meaning, but that deep sense of being present in your own life, not just passing through it. This feeling of being lost is not a spiritual failure, nor a human weakness. It is part of the journey itself, as if life pushes you to step away for a while, to experience, to wander, to search outwardly until you mature enough to turn inward with sincerity. For humans do not ask about themselves from a void, but only after experiencing what does not resemble them. And here, at this unspoken turning point, the real question begins to form. Not, what do I want to be, but where was I while I became all of this? And from this question, thinking does not just begin, it is the first step of the return. And with this question that surfaces gently within, the direction of the journey shifts without anyone noticing. The steps are no longer driven by the same urgency, nor the desires by the same insistence. It's as if something inside you has begun to stop running, not out of weariness, but out of awareness. An awareness that whispers, what you're looking for outside may not be there at all. You begin to notice the distance between you and yourself, not a distance of place, but a distance of presence. You discover that you are physically present in many moments, but spiritually absent from them. You perform, plan, succeed, fail, without truly inhabiting the moment. It's as if life was passing around you while you watched from behind an invisible pane of glass. This distancing did not come without a cost. With it came a sense of heaviness, of disconnection, of a constant search for something to restore balance. We take refuge in busyness, in noise, in clinging to the future or dwelling on the past. just so we don't have to hear that silent emptiness growing inside. An emptiness that doesn't ask to be filled, but to be listened to. And here, the spiritual dimension of the journey emerges, not as a lofty idea nor as a path separate from life, but as a simple return to the depth that was neglected. The soul does not ask you to leave the world, but to inhabit it authentically, to be where you are, fully, not just partially. At this stage, one begins to feel that the problem was never life itself, but the way it was lived. It wasn't the multitude of responsibilities, nor the lack of time, nor the complexity of the world, but the repeated absence from the moment, from the self, from that presence which gives everything its meaning. And with this realization, the transformation does not happen suddenly. Instead, an opening occurs, a small, quiet, yet sincere opening, as if an inner door had been closed unintentionally and is now slowly beginning to open. And from this opening, the soul starts sending its first signals, not to lead you away from your life, but to return you to it from within.
And with this inner opening, the contours of the journey begin to shift once more. The question is no longer, how do I get there, nor what do I achieve? Instead, the feeling becomes deeper than that. You feel as though you are being called not to add more, but to start listening. For the soul does not speak loudly, nor does it persuade or explain itself. Its presence is quiet, but when heard, it changes everything. You discover that your distance from yourself was not a single event, but an accumulation of small moments in which you chose the outer over the inner. Moments when you said, later, when I finish, when I'm ready. And over time, this postponement became a way of life. But what you didn't notice is that the soul does not live in later, it knows only now. Here, the real transformation begins. Not by becoming someone else, but by letting go of the masks you wore to adapt. They do not fall by force, but by sincerity. They fall when you allow yourself to feel without analyzing, to be present without evaluating, to exist without proving. It is as if you were returning to a very simple point that was always far from you, being alive from within. In this depth, the shape of time changes. Days are no longer measured by what you accomplished in them, but by how much of them you truly lived. A single moment of presence becomes wider than a whole week of absence, and you begin to understand something that wasn't clear before. Life is not wasted when we fail, but when we are absent from it while succeeding. And with each small return to this presence, you feel something inside you regaining trust in life. Not because everything has become clear, but because you no longer need so much clarity. It is enough to be connected to yourself, to the moment, and to that silent depth which never left you, even when you moved away from it. And so, without announcement or fanfare, the real return begins. A return that does not take you back to what you were, but reveals to you what you were before you drifted away. A return that makes life feel lighter and more authentic. A return that reminds you that living is not a race, but a renewed encounter with the self, in every breath and in every moment of presence. And with this quiet meeting with yourself, you do not feel as if you have reached an end, but rather a more genuine beginning, as if everything you have gone through in this life was nothing but a long preparation for this moment, the moment of being present without trying, of seeing without fleeing, of living without hiding behind roles. You now understand that moving away from yourself was not a betrayal, but an experience that allowed you to see what does not resemble you so you could recognize what truly does, and that being lost was not a wrong path, but part of the map. For some paths do not lead us outward, they bring us back inward more deeply. In this awareness, your relationship with life changes. You no longer ask life to give you meaning, you begin to discover meaning in your presence with it. In the way you breathe, in your attention to what you feel,
in your honesty with yourself when no one is watching, life becomes less noisy and more transparent, less resistant and more harmonious. And here you touch the essence of the spiritual journey as it truly is, not an escape from the world, nor a denial of the human experience, but a return to it with wider awareness, a return that allows you to live the human experience fully without forgetting your depth and without getting lost on the surface. And when you close this video, you are not asked to do anything different, just to notice, to remember at some moment in your ordinary day that you are here, present, alive, to gently ask yourself, am I living now or just passing through? For in this simple question, the return begins each time. And with every return, a person draws one step closer to themselves, not to become something else, but to finally be what they always were, without ever noticing.